Hi, I'm Julie Knight, and welcome to our podcast, SaaS and Sizzle. So today we're going to meet our guest who is a mastermind in product marketing and strategy, and has worked for some of the best and notable software companies such as Sage, Advanced, and now Civica.
We are pleased to introduce Dan Docherty to you. Dan and I worked closely at Advanced, where we utilized some of his excellent strategies to transform the business into a modern digital first SaaS company. Dan is well known for his sense of humor and his one liners, and his ability to make any conversation light while still addressing the core issues. We believe you will enjoy this conversation and gain insights for your organization.
So without further ado, welcome Dan. As Vikas mentioned, Dan is part of the Civica team for just about nearly a year, where he leads product marketing. And for those that aren't familiar with Civica, they are in the GovTech space. They're a software and services company that supports roughly, 5,000 or more public sector customers across the globe. Now, the other thing is congrats are in order to Civica as they entered into a definitive agreement to be acquired by Blackstone from their current owners, Partners Group AG, in late November. So that's exciting news indeed.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting us along. And I'm really excited to be here today with you guys to talk all things AI.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. Vikas, over to you.
Perfect. Well, welcome, Dan, once again. And Dan, could you please share with us what you've been working at Civica, specifically in the field of AI and generative AI?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things that obviously we're looking to take advantage of, both from an internal perspective, but also for our customer base, and really looking into cognizant language programs. A number of different spaces there. Also looking at how we can improve our internal systems and processes internally using AI, particularly in the marketing space and in the sales enablement space as well, and product marketing, my own area as well. So a number of different areas where AI is quite prevalent within the organization, both delivery to our customers and ultimately citizens that we serve, and within our own organizations to help us to grow to the scale that we need to as per the current acquisition.
So, it was great when we had an opportunity to get together for our pre-brief, and one of the things that we talked about was a recent report by Gartner on B2B buying, and the focus on that is how to adapt your sales and marketing strategies to current B2B buying. I think that is a conversation that leaders, doers, C-suite, board members, everybody is having is, what's changing? How is it working? How is it maybe not working? And what are we all going to do about that? But the interesting area, and I know I've been a big advocate of it for years, and certainly back in my Zendesk days, was digital self-service purchase. And what was interesting in their particular report was that digital self-service purchase are over 1.5 times more likely, those buyers are more likely to regret a purchase than traditional rep-led buyer or buyer-assisted. So rep-assisted digital purchase paths cut buyer regret by half compared to self-service digital commerce. And this percentage of buyers who report high purchase regret that purchase completion when they're trying to do it on their own. And in contrast, those B2B buyers are 1.8 times more likely to complete a high quality deal when they engage in supplier provided digital tools in partnership with a sales rep. Yeah. So I guess the question for you, Dan, is does this line up with your experience as a product leader? And maybe are we marketers becoming a little overly biased with B2C purchase experience and thinking that there's a direct tie to, how one in the B2B environment would want to transact?
Yeah, I think so, Julie. I think it does line up really quite well to what I've seen. I think is it was put in Marketing 4.0, humans buy from humans, right? And it's bought on the basis of trust, and it's bought on the basis of building a relationship. I think AI, and particularly the language models and content distribution is really important in the marketing funnel, in the top end of the funnel, and actually supporting the human in the mid layer of the funnel, from a point of view of just making sure there's consistency there, and also being able to be almost a bit of a watchover of what's happening in there. But people buy from people, and particularly when people are spending other people's money. If I make a mistake of a purchase on Amazon, if I make a mistake of a purchase on Amazon, it's only affecting me, and I'm only accountable to my bank manager, right? I'm not accountable to the boss, and it ain't going to lose me job. So I think there's definitely a piece there whereby when people are spending in business to business environment, they're very much wanting the reassurance of, I've spoke to a person, I've understood what it is, to a certain level. Yeah. So I think when you get into when you're in what I would basically call transactional, in the transactional end of the market, not so much. But when it gets over certain thresholds, I think people start to make sure that they want that reassurance. So the AI definitely plays a massive supporting role in that, and actually in the generation of that demand in the early stages. But as you get down that sort of, when you get to the signing end of the business, I think people want to look somebody in the eye, right? And want somebody to want to know that they can hold somebody to account for the purchase that they've made.
Right. So Dan, that's a very interesting point that you made just now. You're saying that especially for mid to large transaction size deals, the role of AI is much more significant, as we may call it, in the top of the funnel activities. And as you flow down the funnel, the role of humans grows more and more important, and AI becomes like an assistant to do their jobs better, maybe?
Absolutely, Vikas. And I think that why I say that is one, it's from a point of view, if you look at the role of, and Julie, you'll know this as good as anybody, the role of personalization within marketing at the top end of the funnel is growing significantly, right? So I think there is a role to talk to a customer as a consumer. We don't take our heads off and change the way we think about purchasing. We think about like comparing products, from buying a product at home to buying the product at work. It's the fact that the end point is a signature, right? And it means something a little bit different, and there's a bit more different type of accountability. And also working through that top end of the funnel, being able to crunch that data, being able to personalize in a way which, it would take, a marketing team and a content team hours and hours and hours to reshape and refit that content to land on Dan Docherty's desk in the right way, in the right order, with a piece of insight that it's gleaned from what I've been looking at LinkedIn. It would take a content team, too much time. It's not effective, right? And more businesses now are trying to drive down the cost of acquisition, and AI is a perfect tool to help do that. And it's a step beyond automation. We all went through the Eloqua email journey back in the day, right, where it was going to save us millions and millions of pounds. It still needed a human to configure every single one of them journeys. AI is now going to give that a boost by actually having the context of the human it's trying to get in contact with and connect to. So I think there, and in the middle of the funnel, 100%, helping the salesperson be being the guardian to that salesperson as they go through that process, and giving hints and reminders and all that sort of good stuff. But when it comes to closing at a certain level, I still think it needs a human at the back end to make that signature happen.
And finally, it's a human who has to make that signature, isn't it? So you need,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not quite a machine to machine purchasing yet,
yeah,
Vikas, but that's the key piece, right?
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've talked about sales, you've talked about the mid-funnel and the close and the role of our sales reps and really anybody who touches the customer through that journey. And then, we could go into the whole post-sale engagement and what does that mean? And that probably is its own podcast, AI and the role of CS. So I was taking a look, and you talked about Eloqua, so it's only fair we can now talk about HubSpot a little bit. And they've always been known for penning really great blogs, and so I wanted to get their thinking on AI usage. So there was a couple things that I gleaned from this, and number one, and this kind of blew me away. I'm like, is this correct? Only 1/3 of sales organizations are currently using AI. Now, I was wondering, are they aware that in a lot of the CRM and other tools that support the sales cycle, or even prospecting, that AI is existent? But regardless, I mean that's kind of startling in this day and age. But as I was reading on, they were talking about the fact that 8 in 10 leaders and sales ops professionals or rev ops professionals out there, for those of you out there, say that it actually, for those that are using it, it's at least improved reps' time, even if they use it moderately. So they're more productive. They're not maybe as laden with the administrative tasks that they usually are in a non-AI world. And so it goes on to talk about the fact that high performers are 1.9 times more likely to use AI than underperformers. That's not a shocking statement. We know high performers they're curious souls. They want to get more out of their day. They want to get more for their prospect and for the buying group as part of those deals, or if they happen to be on the existing business side, working for with their existing customers on anything from renewals to cross-sell to upsell. But what's important about AI is, you just talked about personalization and how important that is. It really throughout the funnel, but particularly in the top of the funnel, improved understanding of customer needs and productive use of a sales rep time, of the rep's time. AI can be really powerful, and I think all of that makes sense. And we're excited about that. What I wanted to understand further is, where are the pitfalls? Where are the challenges? And we spent some time talking about that when we were doing our pre-brief. And, again, interesting, only 1/3 of the sales organizations are using AIs, but some of the Gen AI pitfalls are lack of personalization. So just, hitting up your Gen AI app, Chat GPT, and just, putting a couple things in and, hit run, cut, paste, send. Ouch. And I want to talk about this, but the lack of rich data sets, really important to this whole exercise. Or what happens when the data is poor? And there isn't a company that we've worked at where we've always wrestled with this. We've always had initiative teams, whatever, to fix it. And then obviously there's privacy concerns and, in Europe, in particular, GDPR. So I'd love for you to hit those points because they're incredibly important. And how do we, through the sales enablement process and really the whole go-to-market, tackle these things?
Well, I think it's like anything, Julie, right? And it's rubbish in, rubbish out, right? At the end of the day, if you're not teaching it the context of what you're trying to get across to the customer, it ain't going to know. So it's partly that, right? Which is if you think about a small child at the age of 3, they cannot ride a bike. You teach them to ride a bike, then they go on to ride a bike down a mountain, right? So its ability will grow and grow as the data and the inputs of the risks and the pitfalls and the challenges and the things that it gets wrong grow. But you as in any organization, it does, and actually, that stat doesn't really absolutely correlates with what I would say and what I would expect of where we are in the adoption curve of AI internally in organizations, due to the fact that, if you actually look at it in some of the some of the organizations that I've worked with over the years, not so much worked for, but worked with over the years, still believe sales is magic, not a science, right? So then when are they going to adopt, when they're actually going to adopt the true expression of science, which is AI? So it kind of correlates there. I think the thing that we've got to remember is that AI is a learning device. It needs to understand and gain the context, and you've got to put the time in and effort and the data in and effort in to make sure it understands, so that it can then work alongside you in that way and be a true help to that. I think there's a pitfall in regards to, I think, what we were talking about on the the warm-up call is if you ask it to write a proposition, it can write propositions, no problem at all. But what it will be is an amalgamation of probably the top 5 or 6 providers on the market of that proposition, right? So you're going to have a huge genericism to it. You've got to teach it. It's got to learn. It's got to understand. And they're the things that we've got to get to. And your point about data is absolutely key. Got to get the data in, but the right quantity and quality of data in for it to be able to actually express what you want from it, and then enable it in the task that you're trying to get it to do. And I think the key one is about, we talked a little bit as well about the turnaround in speed to market and time to market. There's a lot of time wasted in the go-to-market process in content creation, from a point of view of product marketing to sales enablement and so on. I think what AI can do is an expression of that, and as a starting point in organizations to trust it. There was a great piece by Aaron Harris this week, of the CTO at Sage, which said AI should never be thought about as a black box in the corner. It should be thought about as a colleague in a chair. And the colleague in the chair needs to be an open and honest one, probably more open and honest than any other colleague in any other chair. So it's about not thinking that it's just a black box. It's about thinking that it is a colleague in the chair, and that we've got to teach it and we've got to understand it. And then therefore it has to understand, we have to understand its role in the process, right? And what is the outcome of it, and what do you want it to do for you to make it a better place, or improve efficiency, or whatever you do. So I know that's a bit scattergun, Julia. I hope it gets you where we want to get to, but from my view is that it's very much that organizations really don't know what role it's going to play, so that's why they haven't adopted it. And until they actually work out what role they want it to play in their organization, whether that be in an enterprise organization that's trying to generate leads, or whether that's another mid-market organization that's trying to increase pipeline velocity, or whether it's just in the organization to create consistency throughout its conversation with the customer.
Yeah.
What role do you want it to play? Just the same as if you're hiring a colleague, what role do you want it to play? And then how are you going to teach it?
Job description. I mean, it seems a little dated to say that, but what is it that you ultimately want this, as you would hire somebody? What is the purpose of this hire? What are they going to do? What are they going to run? What are the things that they're responsible for? How are they going to be measured? What are the outcomes? And these are important things, because if you look at a lot of the, whether it's adverts that come across through LinkedIn, or you look at websites, it's like, well, you just need to have it because it has quote AI. And if you just have, this isn't to pick on anybody, but if you just have more of that conversational, AI enabled conversation, magic should happen. And yes, that could be an outcome. Equally, absolutely. If you just, hit go, there could be some unintended consequences that don't
Huge.
exactly deliver on the promise.
Absolutely. And I think, this is another point that I made back in the day in regards to the cloud transition, right? Just cloud was not a feature. It was just a way in which you consume the product, right? A way in which you consume the service. If you get in a cloud to cloud conversation with a customer, that's just my electricity is faster than your electricity argument, right? It's just not the case. It's got to have a generative output and to value to the end user. And what I'm seeing a lot of in the market at the moment is people going, well, I've got AI in there because it's the catchword. It's what they believe, they think they need to be putting in there. They're not expressing what the actual value of that AI is to the user in their process. They're not saying what it means to that other colleague in the chair to them, or all of them sort of things. And that's kind of frustrating, but also a massive opportunity for the businesses to get it right.
Yeah. I think one more aspect which we all have to keep in mind, because in the rush to deploy AI in your organization or to deliver results to your customer using AI, we got to keep in mind about the guardrails that in which we need to operate in that space.
Yeah.
Because you can't just be loading some of your proposal data on to ChatGPT and asking them to improvise it and sharing all your
all your strategy, and the next thing you know, everybody's got your strategy, right?
Yeah. So and I was just reading this report from McKinsey, which was released last month. It talked about organizations right now are not as much paying attention to that part of the business area yet. That is responsible AI. They are saying, okay, we will handle the risk as they come along the way.
Yeah.
But I would say that if an organization is thinking of bringing Gen AI into the business, both as a consumer as well as to deliver value to the customers, they have to have those guardrails in place from the beginning itself, so that you can inculcate the right habits in your employees. And
Absolutely,
push direction down the path. So yeah.
Look, I think I think the employee analogy or the colleague in the chair analogy is a good one. You have guardrails. Like I have guardrails as vice president of product marketing for Civica, right? I have guardrails where I can work and where I can't work, and the things that I can say and can't say, and all that sort of good stuff. That's no different for AI, right? It is a cognizant learning activity, and you've got to set out what you want from it, how it wants to work, but also what the guardrails are of what you're trying to achieve with it. And ultimately that you'll get the most out of it, and equally you'll manage the risk. I think at the moment there is an element where I'm seeing a little bit of, it's different to the world of the internet. We had the gold rush of the internet and the cloud, and everybody putting their data in the cloud, right? And that genie got out the bottle a little bit too quickly. AI's out the bottle. It's there. It's working. However, I am seeing a cognizant difference with people's approach to it, because they either think it's going to be the thing that solves all problems, or they think it's an existential threat to jobs or to people. I think as with everything, it's a balance. It's a balance somewhere between the two, right? If it's managed and understood, and in the right way, with them risks understood, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. And definitely I'm seeing the upside and the opportunity there, but equally, as you said, Vikas, understand and be cognizant and deliberate. There are two things that I always used to say at our previous work, which was once you're cognizant of something, be deliberate, be consistent, and if you are that, you'll be able to manage that risk in a far better way.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, and I think about, as somebody who's been in the HCM space for a long time, you think now about the role of, corporate learning and development. You think about compliance, and also enabling your managers, enabling your people to understand it, and not in a way that is, if you do it, then there will be, be fired or what have you. But just like everything, how do you use it smartly, wisely, and with purpose? And those are things that, if not already, need to be part of, the corporate learning and sales development, sales enablement curriculum, so that people really do understand it. And to your point, get the best out of it. And it's not just protecting the assets and the IP of the company, which one has to do, but ultimately it's protecting the customer, whether they're a prospect, whether they've been a customer for 15 years. There's so many different components, and so it's exciting, the gold rush and all of that, but there's a lot of players involved, and we're living in an age where customers get to vote, and that vote is
Exactly.
yeah.
And when you move in if you move into a SaaS world, right, which is a dynamic change in regards to the way in which people think about things. So the second that you move somebody into a SaaS, they're subscribing to a service. The service is less. There's less ownership of them to gain the value of themselves. You're meant to provide it as the provider of it. Otherwise, they'll cancel. Equally so, if they don't feel safe, they'll do exactly the same, right?
Absolutely.
And doing that, I think you bring up a great point there, Julie, around actually, are organizations educating their teams in the use of AI, as they have started doing now with data policy?
Yeah.
As they have done now with anti-bribery and corruption, as they have done with other things, right? Because I think there is no way in which you can, as organizations, and as people who are providing this software, unless we understand what the guardrails are on our teams and we make sure they understand it, how are they going to know what that needs to be for the end user and how that's going to work and what the protections are? So I think as you hit a really great point there, and something that, to be honest with you, needs to be more talked about in regards to doing that and how that's going to work.
Yeah,
and this is precisely what we thought we want to kind of spread the message with this podcast series, which is, as we spoke about Gold Rush, that it's not about sticking a sticker on your offering of AI. There's a lot more behind the scenes that we have to get it right, and that's precisely what we want to bring to our audiences through various guest series of interviews to see how industry leaders are doing that in their businesses. Yeah.
And I think the difference with this to be fair to a lot of organizations, some organizations just want to put the sticker on the box, right? And they want to say, yeah, we're AI. I think there is a lot of organizations who are deliberately making sure that they understand it before they bring it to bear, because I think this is very different to the days of cloud and data, where everybody rushed to the cloud, tried to get the data in the cloud, and then didn't really know how to secure the data, and then things happened, right? Where I think they can see this could be the horse that bolts quite quickly. So I think people are a little bit, and rightly so, right? But as I said before, it's anywhere between there's gold in them there hills and an existential threat to humanity, right? so I think people are playing with that at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go back to what where we started, which is great news on the transaction, and but with that, and having gone through it myself, there's a lot of expectations, not only with the sponsors, but your customers, certainly employees, go-to-market partners, and of course the market, vis-a-vis value creation. And so any company that may be going through the process, and we're not speaking here, and just want to be clear, we're not speaking about Civica here, but just in general, what is the role that Gen AI can play or does play with regard to the creation of that value creation plan? And, is Gen AI, that's a lot to say, accelerating AI's contribution to that value creation plan from your perspective and experience?
Absolutely. And I think not just from a point of view of privately held organizations, but also within the publicly, in the NASDAQ and the FTSE as well. You've got organizations like Sage and others talking about it in depth and across the tech spectrum, because investors want to know what that you've got a grip. It's a 5-year horizon, right? It's always a 5-year horizon. Julie, you've been in that. You've been on the mill, right? It's always a 5-year horizon. And what's going to fundamentally going to be the impact to any organization over the next 5 years? AI is going to play a bigger and bigger role as the adoption curve comes through. So having an understanding of, again, what role do you want AI to play within your organization? Do you want it to play on a front foot in regards to it being part of your product and service offering and how it's going to handle and help your customers? Do you want it to be a back office partner and helping you in regards to improve efficiency and optimization of your sales and go-to-market process? What role do you want that to play? Because ultimately what sponsors and sharing stakeholders will be looking for is do you have a cognizant strategy? This is no different in regards to you having a cognizant strategy on M&A, on product production, on all of them things. It will be a distinct strand that people will push on because it is the latest thing and it does generate value. Do I think it generates a significant value? I think it's got a role to play as moving forward. It'll probably play more of a role. I think the fundamental in the where we are at the moment, Julie, in the overall scheme of investments, I think the fundamentals still play, right? The fundamentals of, are you profitable? Have you got a good product market fit? Can you sell? Yeah. And I think they're the fundamentals that are still driving the market. I think it plays a very small percentage in valuation at the moment. Probably a little bit more in public companies because they'll talk about it more and it can be do that. I think over time it'll massively increase the value of organizations. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does. So I think I like the remark you made before about whether you want to play on the front foot or you want to look at the back end processes. Normally we put it also in a way whether you want to create new value with it through your products and technology stacks, or you want to look to AI to actually unlock some of the value that is trapped in your business already in terms of efficiencies and optimization. So in both fronts, indeed, it can play a role. But definitely that makes a lot of sense what you just said. That fundamentals still remain the driving force for any value creation, which is your whether you can sell, whether you have product market fit, and are you doing the business the right way or not.
Yeah, and product market fit is where it comes, right? Which is if AI is going to play a part in your product market fit, increase your customer desirability, make you technically more capable of delivery, make you more commercially viable as an organization, then it's going to offer greater value to you. So like they're playing that's the core fundamentals, right? It's just where it is at the moment in the life cycle versus where it's going to be in the life cycle in 5 years' time.
Yeah. Well, on that note, that's all the time we have for today's inaugural SaaS and Sizzle podcast. Dan, thank you so much for being guest numero uno. That's pretty exciting. And this was a really great conversation, tons of insights, practical information. And, whether you're coming from the marketing world, whether you're a founder, and interested in customer, because there's a lot you want to understand about the vendors with whom you work. There's a lot of places to go get information, and it's a time for all of us to learn, to understand, and also in companies, whether we are procuring products, which we all do, or we're selling products. It's important that we work with our corporate L&D teams, sales enablement teams, and others really to make sure that everybody is learning both the benefit, but also putting those important guardrails in place. So with that, many thanks to our listeners. SaaS and Sizzle can be found on Spotify, YouTube, and on shikerconsulting.com. That's www.shikerconsulting.com, the sponsor of today's podcast. Dan, again, thank you very much. And we'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dan. Nice speaking to you.